behalf of the Dean, who, like the Director has said, is unavoidably absent, we welcome all of you to this forum, which, aside from being a forum of the School of Media and Communication, is something that I think we'll all need in our different spheres of activities. Changing markets in a changing world. The world is constantly changing. Technology is doing a lot. So we think that we should be part of this. There is a saying that goes this way, that as soon as you stop changing, then you are moving backwards. So change is something that is paramount to us. And today we have somebody who is going to do justice to this topic. I'm not going to introduce him because the director says she will rightly introduce him, so I will leave Raimund's introduction for matter. But my duty here today is to say welcome to the Pan-Atlantic University, welcome to this forum, and I hope that the discussions that will take place today will be rich and enriching for all of us, so that when we leave, we're able to deploy what we have learned from here. It's only when you are able to deploy what you have learned from this discussion in your workplaces, in your life, that will say the forum has succeeded. So it's not just enough to listen and talk here. What we expect you to do is to take away a few things that will help you in your daily activities. So welcome again, and I wish you a good time here. Thank you.
Our guest speaker is Professor Dr. Raimund Wildner. He has been to Nigeria at least 4 times, and he's behind this center, GFK Center here. And he has been kind enough to offer to teach statistics to participants. He did it last year, and he came since Monday, has been teaching to make sure that you have enriched participants to work in this market. And the topic, the theme, is changing market research and changing marketing world. Please help me to welcome him. He's the MD of GFK Verein in Germany.
I want to share with you 3 points. The first point, the changing marketing world. The second point, the changing world of market research. And the third point, the new opportunities for market research. And if there's something unclear, please just interrupt me. The changing marketing world. What I want to share with you first is a little story. A little story from a musician who went with United Airlines, and he gave, as a package, he gave his guitar to United Airlines, and when he came back, it was broken. So he went to United Airlines, he went to 3 hostesses, and all of them said, no, not interested at all, it's not our business, and so on. And then, normally in the old world, what would have been? He would have gone away, he would have talked to a few friends, and that was it. In the new world, he did a film, a video, and uploaded it to YouTube, and this video is watched up to now more than 13 million times. Let's have a look on it. And
United Airlines on my way to Nebraska. The plane departed Halifax, connecting in Chicago's O'Hare. While on the ground, a passenger said from the seat behind me, my God, they're throwing guitars out there. The band and I exchanged a look, best described as terror, at the action on the tarmac, and knowing whose projectiles these would be. So before I left Chicago, I alerted 3 employees who showed complete indifference towards me. United just admit I should have flown with someone else or gone by car. 'Cause United breaks guitars. When we landed in Nebraska, I confirmed what I suspected. Mike Taylor been the victim of a vicious act of malice at O'Hare. So began a year-long saga of pass the buck, don't ask me, and I'm sorry, sir, your claim can go nowhere. So do all the airlines people from New York to New Delhi, including Caiaphas Earl Wing, who says the final word from them is no. I've heard all your excuses, and I've chased your wild gooses, and this attitude of yours, I say, must go. United, you broke my Taylor guitar. United, some big help you are. You've broken, you should fix it. Your line is just dead. I should have flown with someone else or gone by a car. 'Cause United breaks guitars. Well, I won't say that I'll never fly with you again, 'cause maybe to save the world I found I would. That won't likely happen, and if it did, I wouldn't bring my luggage, 'cause you'd just go and break it into 1,000 pieces, just like you broke my heart. When United breaks guitars. United, you broke my Taylor guitar. United, some big hill you are. You've broken, you should fix it. Your line just dead end. I should have flown with someone else or gone by car. 'Cause United breaks guitars. Yeah, United breaks guitars. Yeah, United breaks guitars.
Could you imagine the worth of this kind of advertising? 13 million hits, and each of these 5 minutes. After that, you know, United breaks guitars. Now we have a new association. If you were in United breaks guitars. And what I want to tell you with this video is, in the old marketing world, there was a company, and the company made marketing to the consumers. And so the company had a kind of communication monopoly. What was said about their brand, about the companies, they defined it. In the new marketing world, the company still tries to make marketing, but there are others as well who make a lot of communication about the brands, about the company, whether a company behaves right, about the morals of the company, and things like that. And this is very, very effective. And I think companies have to cope with that, and companies have to take this into account to be successful in the future. The consumer has changed to a prosumer. This was already predicted by Alfred Toeffler in the 80s, and it now happens. And I think it happens worldwide. Why does it happen? things like that always have reasons. And one of big reasons of the changing world is the costs of information. Cost of information retrieval and cost of innovation storage. It was the first thing was written word on stone. And this dramatically decreased the cost of information. Why? Because formerly we had only a human being as a storage of information, and so the human being had to tell to others so that this could be spread. And later on, it was a type printing. So this overcame the monopoly of the monk they had before on manual reproduction of it, and then it was a telegraph, and now it's internet. And all these changes changed the world. For instance, here, this created empires. This created the Protestant Reformation, because now there was not so much a monopoly on written things. This was important for financial information, and now this makes newspapers struggling. You know, in the United States, very big newspapers are closed, magazines are closed, Newsweek is no longer existing, and now we have as well an information overload. What does this mean for marketing? And what does this mean for the clients? People now have transformed, and people are taking an active place in the market. They have information and they spread information about products and services. They have the ideas for design and they have the possibility to realize it. They can fund new projects without companies, and they can create means of production, and with all of that they can offer products and services. Just to give you a few examples. For instance, information about products. You can go on this website, reddit.com/r/Scotch, where Scotch enthusiasts are forming a group which is exchanging information about Scotch. And they are writing down comments on the Scotch, what is good with it, what is bad with it, and so on, description. They even make, you can here see a kind of product segmentation. This could have been as well a GFK chart. And they are making samples of Scotch and sending them to their friends and selling them. And of course, these samples, all samples look alike. So even the most expensive Scotch looks alike the least expensive one. So there is no way anymore for the manufacturer to guarantee that the appearance of his product is in a certain way. Ideas about product and services, and there are a lot of open source design. So you can here go on these websites and you will find furniture that was designed by consumers, or better I would say by prosumers, like this funny chair. I think this was an addicted smoker who designed it. And well, this was in the past something professionals did, and now consumers can do it. And another thing is fabrication laboratories. So there are fab labs, for instance, in Den Haag and in Barcelona and so on, where there are certain machines these machines are needed to build things like cutting metal and things like that. And these machines are available, you can use them, you pay a certain amount, and then you can use them and build your own things you have designed before. So it's no longer that all things that are in the marketplace were designed by companies also. It can be designed by the consumer. And these are just examples of popular productions. Funny shoes. Ladies, what do you think about them? Nice chairs. Here you see forks, a bicycle, a guitar. So people can do it themselves and can build the product they want. And finally, sometimes you need financial needs to product and to bring something on the market. And there is crowdfunding. Crowdfunding means you are presenting a product idea and then you ask for little funding by people, but if there are many people and a little fund multiplied by many people sometimes gives big money. So for instance, this was an idea. Everybody of us has too many keys in his pocket, and so this idea was to have 6 keys included in a small box, and then you can flip them out or flip them back, and this idea was realized with crowdfunding. So again, the consumer is in an active role. You don't need a CFO or something, you don't need a bank. You just need a website and you just need a good idea. So this was a changing marketing world. And now let's have a look on the changing world of market research. Let's first look on the turnover figures of market research. And as you can see, market research is still a growing industry. And it's still growing faster than the world national product. But there are also negative signs, I think. The first thing is from 2000 to 2005, we had an average annual growth of 10.1%. But from 2005 to 2010, we had an average annual growth of 4.8%. And so it halved. So it's not going on like in the past. And why is this the case? But first let us ask the question, what made market research grow in the past? I think there were some factors coming together why market research grew very much in the past. The first thing is the liberalization of product and services markets. For instance, electricity. Electricity in many countries in former times was run by the state or by the municipal authorities or something like that. And now it's run by companies in many states. And the companies can compete on electricity and the customers can choose from which company they want the electricity and so on. So there is a competition, consumers get relevant, and so you need market research. The same is with water and other things. There was as well a liberalization of country markets. Especially, for instance, in the Middle and Eastern Europe in 1989, there was, it exploded. Before it was nothing, there was a kind of market research, but it was not a market research as we know it. It was simply a counting of eggs. There was some funny story. There was a shortage of eggs. in the German Democratic Republic. And then it happened that the price, and they said, well, we have to raise the price for the producers. But they didn't want to raise the price for the consumer. So the price for the producers got above the price of the consumer. And then they were produced the eggs, and then the eggs were sold by the farmer. And then the farmer said, oh, you have 200 eggs, I buy them. And then I bought them, and then he sold it again. So the number of eggs exploded, but the number of hens didn't change at all. Okay, so sometimes this was a market research in the former German Republic. This is not what we understand in the market research. Okay, next point, what is important, I think we had a growing number of people in the emerging country for which products, branded products are from US or from Europe or from other parts of the world, from Korea and so on, are available. For instance, China. China, the number of people who can afford such product exploded in the last years. And so the need for market research exploded as well. And fourth, we have an increasing number of products in many, many markets. We have much more cars, for instance, than we had 20 years ago. Think a lot of Audi. Audi 20 years ago had Audi 50, Audi 80, Audi 100, Audi 200, that it was. Now they have X1, X3, they have A1, A3, A5, A7, A8. They have SUVs and so on and so on. So they have 3 times as much car as they had in the last years. And of course, for all these products, you need market research. And if the number of products increase, you have to decide to whom to sell the products. Today we spoke about segmentation in the course. And if you have more products, you need more segmentation. Because then you have to say, well, this car, I have to sell this person and this car to that person. Henry Ford, with his Tin Lizzie, needed no segmentation. He said once, the customer can have any country as long as it is black. Okay. And we have internationalization. So companies from other countries come to many, many countries and want to sell their product there. Samsung is such a company. Samsung got to many, many countries in the last years, and of course then they need market research in those countries in order to make right decisions in the market. And things at last, in many countries the marketing costs increase faster than the gross national product. So the share of the marketing costs on the gross national product is higher, is getting higher and higher. And this means that, of course, you have to spend your marketing dollars, your marketing naira, very, very carefully. And that makes it necessary to do market research so that you know what is the optimum spending. Well, this was the past. What about the future? I think liberalization of product and service markets, I think this is already done. There's not so much which can be done in the future. National security will not be prioritized, I think. Okay, liberalization of country markets. There are a few countries where this can still be done, like Myanmar, but there are not so much countries. I think the growing number of people for whom branded products are within reach in emerging countries, I think this will continue, this will go on. And perhaps, I think this will speed up. Increasing number of products in many markets, yes, I think it will go on. But I'm not sure whether this will be in the future in the sense of market research. And doing market research for a product is worthwhile only if you run a risk. And with the new possibilities, very often they can offer a product. If it goes, fine. If it doesn't go, close it down. Okay? And in the extreme, there are companies which offers you jeans trousers, and you can design them and say what color and so on. And if everybody has its own product, as in former times when you tailor-made your suit or your dress, you need no market research. So more product is good for market research to a certain point, and from a certain point, I think it can be bad. Internationalization, I think this will go on. The forces are too strong. The advantages are too big that this will not go on. It will have backlashes, as it happened in the past as well, but I think it will go on. And, well, in many markets, marketing costs increase faster than the gross national products. I'm not so sure whether this will continue endlessly. For instance, media costs in the last years more got down than up. The official media costs are the same, but there are huge rebates. In Germany, the gross costs without rebates are 100%, and the net costs with rebates are 40%. So there is an average rebate of 60%, and this shows that there is a price erosion. So not everything will be in the future like it was in the past. We have seen the changing role of the consumer. What does this mean for market research? In the past, the manufacturer sold his goods to the consumer, and the only thing he wanted back from the consumer was this money. That was the only thing he wanted back. And the information was delivered to him by market research. So market research was something like a gatekeeper about information about the consumer. Now, there's a lot of information in the world about the consumer. Consumers talk to each other, and this generates information in the internet. And of course, we still have market research, but there is a competing information flow from the consumer to the manufacturer. And of course, market research can analyze this, but others can do as well, like Google. Google is living on information it has from consumer and it sells to companies to do effective advertising. So Google does a lot of things in the past market research companies did. And well, the question is how long this will go on. Well, if your business model is under danger, you always think about your core competences. What was the core competence of market research? The core competence was, from a well-defined universe, to draw a representative sample, to ask these people about the topic you wanted to know something about, and then to project this to the universe and deliver the information to the client. For example, in Germany we have a household panel of 30,000 households that on a regular basis report us about what they buy concerning packaged goods, and these results are projected to the total German market and delivered to our customers. Well, what about this core competence? representative sample. First question. This is how the response rates changed over time. In 1986, the response rate in Germany was nearly 60%. In 2006, the last figure I got was 40.5. And I'm quite sure nowadays it's below 40. So the number of persons who wanted to answer our questions is declining. And this has some consequences for the representativity of the sample. Because we cannot be sure that those who do not answer our questions are the same as those who do. Secondly, there are many data available now for free. For instance, if you are a lawnmower manufacturer, just to make one example, you can see here the number of searches for lawnmower. And if you want to time your advertising, perhaps you do not do it in February, you start in March and April. Okay, this delivers quite reasonable information you can use. And here you can see from which parts of Germany the most search requests came to Google. So it was especially in the eastern part where not so many people live, so people should have more lawns to mow than in Stuttgart or Munich. And there are other things available as well. For instance, we have in Germany a market media study, Verbraucheranalyse. And this has 31,000 questionnaires, 31,000 cases. And they have a lot of topics about what people eat, about cosmetics, about cars, and so on. And they deliver it for free. Why do they deliver it for free? It is paid by the media companies. And the media companies need these data in order to sell their advertising space in the media. And these data they can give for free because they are not so interested in that. They are more interested in what is special for a certain magazine, which target group is very special for that. These data are not in public, but the data that is here is in public. And you can combine your data as you want. So there's a program involved, and you can say, well, for instance, this is short travels, 4 days or shorter in the last 12 months. And here you can see certain regions. So you can build your tables. You can say, this I want above, and this I want on the columns, this I want on the rows. And so you are very, very free to combine your data as you like it, and this is for free. If we would do it, it would cost us millions of euros. 31,000 cases is a lot. And even if these data are not available there, in the US, in the meanwhile, we have the possibility to have general population 10 cents per response offered by Google. And if you want to have certain demographic targeting, like dog owners or something like that, oh, it costs a little bit more, sorry for that. It costs $0.50. This is not yet offered elsewhere, it's only offered in the US. But if this works, and we know Google quite well, I will be quite sure that it will be offered elsewhere within the next 2 years or something like that. So, from this, our old business model comes under pressure. Further, Facebook. It has more than 900 active users, some say more than 900 million, some say more than 1 billion. It's not quite sure, but if it's as large as this, why do sampling? It's like a universe. And we have seen there's a lot of information on the internet which is for free. So I think market research will have to change a little bit. And how will it have to change? And what I think, there are 4 new opportunities for market research. The first one, in market research we have invented and developed over the years a lot of tools. How to address the consumer, how to let the consumer participate, and things like that. And I think these are tools that are valuable for manufacturers as well. So these tools can be used for manufacturers as well. Second, we have to use more and better data. And this without buffering our interviewing more. That's a little bit difficult, but there are ways to do that, and I will show you. And third, we should generate richer data that can generate more insights. So very often, these data that are in the internet are only about just one thing. So in the internet, perhaps they know what you are searching. Google knows what you search, but Google doesn't know what you buy. If we can generate a database where there is buying behavior plus searching behavior, this could offer an immense added value. And indeed, Google is paying millions for that added value to GFK. And get better tools to analyze data. More clever tools to analyze data. Like models, for instance. Okay, the first point. Oops. In the past, we had the old model, but now we have the new model where all the consumers are also sending. And the manufacturer has to make a dialogue with his consumers. And for instance, Daimler-Benz has built up a panel of car enthusiasts, and with them they discuss in which direction the development of the next car should go. Should it be more speedy, or should it be more environmental friendly, and so on. And to build up such a community is something market research has learned quite well. We have quite big experience in building up panels and so on. So Mercedes didn't it alone. They took the help of a market research agency to build up such a panel. Unfortunately, it was not GFK, but we are working on that. So this could be something. And another thing could be, well, we are quite good, I think, in collecting data and interpreting them. So we could identify unmet needs if we listen to what consumers are saying. And we could give this to a third company. We can collect data about consumer communication. I will show you an example. And we can help users to innovate. So open source, open communication, this is something where market research company can be a good enabler to do that. And we are quite good in deriving insights from the primary and secondary data. So again, it's using tools and analytical skills we developed in the past decades, and we apply to this new world. And I think this can be quite successful. This shows you a network of the political Twitter sphere. And what does you learn from that? This could as well be the network about a product or about a service or whatever. So there are a few persons which are really big knots, and many things are going over them. For instance, Hubert Ziekinger and Florian Klenk are people, if this is about your service, you should address. And you should try to bring them on your side. And this would change the communication about your brand, about your service. Generate more and better data without generating more burden for the interviewers. And this is as well something that is not for free and cannot be done for free in the internet. One example for this is to get the emotions. Emotions are very important in marketing. Advertising without emotions doesn't work. You have to transport emotions that a person is saying, well, this is relevant for me. And only if it's relevant, they can listen to what you are saying. So you have to have emotions, but you have to have a message as well. And the question is this emotional or not? And there are some things you can do. For instance, you can go on the psychophysiological level. You can get to the central nervous system, I will show you. You can measure the heart rate, the blood pressure, and things like that. You can, on the motor level, facial expressions. I come to that. Body language. Everybody knows how emotions are expressed in body language. And you can ask. But this, of course, is additional burden to the persons you ask. And second, it's a little bit difficult. If you look at a commercial, you can ask how emotional in general it was. But to ask for every scene how emotional this scene was and that scene afterwards, that's a little bit difficult. And there is a lot of something we could say rationalization. So we are not so sure whether you are telling us what you really felt as emotion, or whether you are telling us what you think is a good emotion and you are a good guy if you have these emotions. This is the ways to look in the brain. Either you do it by EEG. EEG measures the electrical movements in your brain. It's very near to the time, but you don't see exactly which part of the brain it took place. That's a problem. fMRT, you lay the people in the tube, which is not a very biotic situation, and then you get photos like this. We did experiments with that. These are from our experiments, and you can see exactly which parts of the brains were activated. But you cannot see exactly at what time. The reason is, if a part of the brain is activated, this part of the brain requests oxygen, oxygen-loaded blood. And then the body starts to let flow oxygen-loaded blood to that part of the brain. And this flow of oxygen-loaded blood is measured. But it takes 1 to 2 seconds until this flow takes place. So for videos and emotion in videos, it's not so good. And of course, it's very expensive. It starts at €500 per case, so it's impossible to make it with representative samples or something like that. The next thing is facial expressions. It's not very new. It was developed by Ekman and Friesen in the 1970s. And there are two ways to do it. The first way is give the video to an expert. And this would mean that the expert, it would take about 2 hours for an expert to decode the emotions of a person within 30 seconds. So it is possible, but it is prohibitive in terms of costs. The other way would be, well, there is a facial EMG. You put some cables on the face, and these cables measure how your face moves. I don't think that this is something you can do with representative samples. Okay? So what we did, together with Fraunhofer and the University of Geneva, we developed a software, and this software decodes whether an emotion is positive or negative. And this is how it looks like for a commercial for Mercedes, for instance. There was a Mercedes driving, there was some music, and this Mercedes was driven by a famous Formula One driver. The most famous Formula One driver. Exactly. Okay. And after him driving was another one, Häkkinen. Okay? And he couldn't overhaul him, and at least he overhauled him. And then he said, oh, okay, Sunday driver. Sunday driver in Germany means he's only a person driving on Sunday. And of course, Schumacher at that time was a Sunday driver because the Formula One races were on Sundays. Okay? And then, a famous German former footballer, Beckenbauer. Do you know Beckenbauer? Is it known here?
Yeah.
Really? Okay. A famous German footballer came with his Mercedes G model and overhauled Häkkinen. And then the 70 years old Beckenbauer said about Häkkinen, oh, well, are you a pensionist? Because Häkkinen no longer drives. Huh? You have to know a little bit about Formula One to understand the jokes. And you can see the first joke, it's understood. This was the first joke, and then it goes down and then overhauls Beckenbauer, and it is understood again. So this works quite well in terms of showing emotions. There are others which don't work so well, but well, it's always better to show something that works well. Okay, and this is now offered to clients, and it's not without any burden. You can do it with a webcam. It can be done in the house of the respondent. The only thing he has to do, he has to give us the allowance to activate the webcam and to make a video out of it. So we explicitly ask him to do that. Okay, generate richer data that can generate more insights. Just one example. We have, I already told you, 30,000 households for a household bill in Germany. And we asked these 30,000 households, would you please allow us to get your internet service behavior? About 70% of them have internet. And those were asked, would you please allow us to get your internet service behavior? And if so, please install the software and the CD that was attached to the letter. And 10,000 households did it. And what's important, I think, is there's a lot of trust. These already gave us their buying behavior. Now they give us as well their internet viewing behavior. the internet usage behavior. There's a lot of trust about that. And I think that's a very, very important thing, a very, very important advantage of market researchers, that they have generated trust. Everybody who takes part in market research knows my data are safe, they are not given to anybody, and we do not sell anything to them. We do not make any sales approach. And additionally, 5,000 households of them give us additional information about their TV viewing behavior. So from these 5,000 households, we know TV viewing behavior, we know online behavior, and we know buying behavior concerning fast-moving consumer goods. And if you know that, then you can compare the effectiveness of advertising. This is, for instance, the effectiveness of TV advertising. It's plus 19%. So a person who bought in a certain category, and this person had seen in the 7 days before in TV advertising, bought 19% more share of the advertised item or advertised brand compared to the other people. We asked as well which print magazines people read, so we know about print advertising as well. It's plus 11%. Banner advertising is plus 19%. YouTube advertising is plus 40%. And search engine advertising plus 39%. Of course, these cannot be compared directly to that. Why? For search engine advertising, for instance, you have to be active. And it's a big advantage of search engine advertising that people are searching something which is next to the advertised product. So, for instance, you are searching for motorcycles, and then you get the advertising for the motorcycles. And then you are in a mood to come to that thing, and then you are nearer to the product. But if you have this, you can compare this, and there's another way of trust, I would say. Of course, perhaps Google could build up their own panel. Building up a panel is not a rocket science, you can do that. But if Google would say, well, search engine advertising is much more effective than print advertising, would everybody believe that? I'm not so sure about that. Market researchers are neutral, so we can say that, and if we say that, it's believed more than if Google say that. Well, and last point, get better tools to analyze the data. The point is data and information. We talk about information overload. That means we have too much information. And if you have of one thing too much, you are not going to pay a lot of money for more of it. So information is not the real thing. The real thing is knowledge, and the real thing is meaning. What does this mean for your business? And if you can create meaning, knowledge and meaning, regression models, for instance. And if there is a model that is capable of measuring the long-term effects, this could be a real breakthrough. And the 71 Media, which is a media company in Germany, came to us, and well, and then I tried to set up a model. We have the data for purchasing data of our 30,000 households. We have TV consumption data of our TV consumption panel, and we made a data fusion to combine it, to get a combined database. And then we had a large pool of data. The point was, we said, well, we split it up. We say, the occasion is a person buys coffee. And if he buys a coffee for the brand we are analyzing, it's a 1. If I buy a competitive brand, it's a 0. And then we have all the buying acts are data points, are occasions. So we have 40,000 to 800,000 occasions in many, many categories. So this is the normal range. Or large database. And there are confounding variables which we have to take out because 1 or 0 depends as well on whether somebody has seen advertising or not, depends as well on how much somebody sees advertising, so we have to take this out. And we use levels of brand loyalty to get long-term effects. Levels of brand loyalty, what does this mean? We say every person is on a level of brand loyalty. If he never bought the brand, he is a non-buyer. If he buys it once, he gets an occasional buyer. If he buys it a second time, he gets a repeat buyer. And if he buys a third time, he gets a very loyal buyer. If he buys the competitive brand, he steps back. If he buys our brand, he gets up. So he constantly steps back. If he is a faithful buyer and he continues buying, he stays there. So every person is at every purchase act on a certain. And this variable helps us to take into account as well the long-term effect. Because if we brought somebody who was a non-buyer to buy the product by advertising, he gets an occasional buyer. And in the next purchase act, even if he doesn't see any advertising at all, his buying probability has increased from 6% to 33%. These figures are just one example, it's one brand. They differ from brand to brand, of course, but this is a very typical. So there's a huge difference in general between this buying probability and that. And if we take this into account, then we get the short-term ROI is 0.8, and the long-term ROI in average is 2.0. Not 0.25, it's 2.0. So it's really worthwhile long-term generally. Of course, there are also in 42%, there in 70% about it was bigger than 1, but of course in 30% it was lower than 1. Okay, to conclude, the amount of available market information is exploding. And this challenges our business model. And we were a gatekeeper. We are no longer the gatekeeper. But I think we have learned quite a lot. We have learned to take these massive data, this big data, and to make real meaning out of them, and to help managers to use them for their business decision. So, if you have static, generally available information, this is nothing you can have money for anymore. There were a lot of encyclopedias in the world, like Encyclopedia Britannica or Brockhaus in Germany or whatever. They are done. You cannot have Wikipedia is more active, more actual, and it's for free. But universities did not disappear. So knowledge is important. And research didn't disappear at all. So knowledge is still important. And, well, it's our task as market researcher to generate knowledge, not just data. Thank you very much.
I want to disagree on one point. Identify a trend then ask a question. Disagreement is that We think that liberalization has not come to an end. Liberalization, which we think has not come to an end. It is moving to liberalization, as we showed in the paper.
No. It's not coming to an end. The point is, it's no longer good perhaps for market research. Individualization goes on. But if everything is individualized, and if the production processes are so flexible that you can post, you can give by the internet your wishes to the productions, and he does it, you need no market research anymore.
Doesn't that mean that market research should train as market strategy to customer or consumer, customer research, rather than market research? I think that's a trend that we
Yeah.
The second point I think the trend is journalism and mass communication. We've confronted this challenge of information overload, of the threat by the Google and so on, and we are not developing new skills in data scraping rather than data gathering. Is that the trend that market research may pursue? The greatest challenge that seems to face us, and when I say us, the new market research, journalism, communication, is generating these new models. And I agree that GFK should lead, if another market research should lead by in developing new models of data interpretation.
Concerning the media, I think media is a very difficult question, and the question is the business model for media. And for instance, in Germany, a big publishing house, Springer, the biggest one, tries now to make money in the internet. They are not very successful so far. The newspapers are going down and down and down. In the US, the newspaper article about in Chicago about the town hall sessions of the municipal council are written by Indian journalists in Bangalore. In the US it is possible because there are enough Indians speaking good English. In Germany it's not possible, not yet. But this shows that the quality is deteriorating now as well. And I think if the quality is deteriorating, you are producing less additional value, and that's really a problem. Of course, going into the internet and looking what is said in the internet is something that is a new skill. And I have shown you this picture with all these many connections, and this is where we are working quite hard to build up the skills and to use it for market research as well. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for that response. Any questions?
Sorry, would that be the same for Africa, for developing societies like Africa?
I think developing countries like Africa make a jump. In many cases, they don't develop the old things we developed. It's like with telephones. In Africa, people don't have fixed line telephones. And they are not getting fixed line telephones, so the penetration is low, but it's not getting higher. In some countries, it's getting lower. But the mobile phone penetration is very high. And so, as well, I think with in marketing, the communication between people, this is taking place in Africa as well. And as you can see, in Tunisia, in Egypt, it was because people were communicating. This is challenging states, and I think it's challenging the marketing as well. Of course, newspapers don't write so much about that as it is challenging states, but I think it's a challenge for manufacturers as well. One thing is, for instance, in the past, you could behave quite bad. And nobody knew about that. Nowadays you can't. If you behave very bad, you get a real shitstorm. And you get real problems. And for instance, we had in Germany a big retailer, one of the biggest. We had drug markets. It was the biggest drug market chain in Germany, but they were known to be very bad to their employees. So they gave them a telephone, but the telephone had no possibility to dial. It had only the possibility to dial the central office. So they couldn't make any private calls or something like that. And so all these stories were recorded. And finally people said, well, I don't like to shop there. It's not fun to see these poor girls and young women. So it's not fun. And they didn't shop there. The chain collapsed. Yeah.
How then do you ensure that you're able to get rich information from the data that you gather? Knowing full well that a lot of the people that you're talking to would have probably entered whatever kind of information you feel suits what you're looking for. Say for instance, you want to talk to people between the ages 18 and 25 and some 15-year-olds playing brands of the internet and enters that age range. So how do you filter such information? Because a lot of these pro-consumers we're talking about are actually very active online. And that is like one of the most viable means of reaching out to them. Like you rightly noted, most people don't want to sit from out to listen to you answer your questions.
Okay. Well, what we can first do, we can collect the data. For instance, with the 10,000 households I showed you. And then we have to talk to the clients. What are their questions? And then we have to sit together and see how we can get information about these questions. One thing, for instance, was what is the effect of TV advertising? Which websites are looked at by young people, which websites are looked at by elderly people, and which websites are looked by both. And then we look at how
and interrogate the proposal properly. Then, of course, the research agency will turn in their data and their report. And that probably made it unnecessary to have a research specialist sitting down in the office in the marketing department with the underemployed.
My worry, like I've said earlier on, is what happens to those who are studying market and social research. So in that case, would you advise them to think of being consultants for these organizations? Could that be the way forward?
That's one way forward. The other one is to, because they are marketing research and social research experts, I also imagine that their background, where they are coming from, maybe they'll be able to fit into marketing departments, and that actually strengthens their brand management portfolio.
How about in our research labs? I think the way it works now is market research. When we talk about it, a lot of people just think about the market and the research. They don't look at the data aspect handling. And you find most organizations have huge data sitting within the business, which they cannot make sense of. And it's not just for you to know how to filter this information, but making sense of the information and being able to cascade down to the business for strategic decision making. And we have a lot of people who are market researchers. It's just for us to get that expertise from moving away from the market research aspect, where all you do is just handle the numbers and the figures, but also being able to have strong analytical skills to make sense of this information for the business, you know, in such a way that is both quantitative and qualitative to the business. So yes, there are a lot of organizations who don't have market research experts, but there are some organizations who understand the essence of having an expert in-house and that person is able to distill all of this information and make sense of it. Because innovation is key for all organizations. And we say organizations that don't innovate these days will die. So, and one front end of innovation is information, insights, market research. And that is being able to distill that information such that you can feed it into your innovation funnel and down the pipeline for product development or service development, whatever it is the key skill that market researchers need to learn. And I think that's where we are lacking, and I think it's something that we consciously need to begin to teach as a skill in terms of analytical skills and being able to know what's the right kind of information, what's not relevant, and what is relevant, and distill that out for organizations. I think that way, if market researchers can position themselves better, they will begin to be a skill that is run after in the industry.
This is exactly what is happening in school today. That's why the market, the GFK Center is set up. And I can tell you that there's a lot that have been changed in places where the best alumni went to. We have one or two of them here, and one of them came from MTN. He said nobody got 4 when it came to innovation in that place, but they got only one, and he was the first to make 4. And it was because of coming from the GFK Center. There's so many changes in the areas they were working just for being in the class for 80 days. And imagine Professor Dr. Raimund, MD of Verein in Germany, is teaching statistics. He just started since Monday, and he's trying to impart this knowledge you're talking to get knowledge, insight from data, so that you can make strategic decisions.
The Harvard Business Review just said in last autumn, the sexiest job of the 21st century is data analyst. So
It makes a lot of sense. Because, like she said, if you get the data and put them there and you can't read meaning in it, it's not useful to you.
Good afternoon, my name is Adele. What I have to say is I think it has to do with competitiveness. In this part of the world, there are a lot of companies who have been there for ages. And you talked about electricity and some other things. Like if you look at the telecom sector, when a lot of competition came in, they had to do a lot of research. So I think a lot of these companies have to do with maybe when the policy of government changed and there are more other companies involved, more retailers are trying to come into Nigeria, then the competition, they will need data to get the consumers. I think the idea is when more company comes in every sector, there's more competition. And when there's more competition, you need to survive. Then they will need more data and they will need market researchers. I think it's still how do I put it, a long way to go. And I think what the Pan-African University is doing is the way to go, because the economy is opening up, more companies are coming in. You'll be surprised at the number of companies that now need data. They will definitely need market researchers. Let's just wait and see. Thank you very much.
Just to say that we have moved from Pan-African University to
Just to make a note, Mr. Adeleke here is one of the students who had gone through this course, and he had gone to GFK in Austria for an internship, and he's back. And before he went, he was working on the local internship with MKNI, and MKNI has retained him now. So, first of all, good news.
And I'm sure they gained a lot. Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes. I just want to also highlight the fact that today, I think market research is part of a larger area, which is essentially consumer insights. Yeah. So market research is just part of a larger area now. Just to address your question that what do you tell students who are studying market research? Well, I think one needs to look at it from a perspective of consumer insight mining rather than research. It is, to add, I think it's partly what she also mentioned, that you need to look at information and how to get knowledge. Market research is just one of the ways.
Thank you very much. Any more questions?
So it's just moving on from market research to consumer research, from data gathering to data security, the new skill?
I think if you are a good market researcher, you are a good data analyst. To be a data analyst is a key competence of a market researcher. And you should be good at consumers, in generating consumer insights out of data. Make meaning out of that. This is what we constantly try for our clients.
Okay, this comment or question, I don't know which one is for GFK. You said Google gets the data and they come to you for analysis, am I right?
Yes.
Are you not worried that very soon they will wipe you out of the market?
Sorry?
Are you not worried that very soon Google can do what you're doing?
Well, they can do it partly, and I'm quite sure that a part of our business in the future will go to Google and so on. So the simple question is, we will not make much money or get profit out of that. This is something we have to abandon. This is what I wanted to tell you during my talk. So we have to do additional things, like for instance, facial coding, which Google can't do. And we developed now 3 years for it and spent quite a lot of money for that. So it's nothing you can take and copy. Copy and paste is not right. Thank you.
I'm winding up this. I'm assuming that there's no more questions. Please, like it, you have questions?
Yes, sorry. My name is Olajide Mbawe. I work with USC. I just want more information on what you said about TV advertising, 25% ROI. And I just remembered now that the Super Bowl in the US, the sports that go on the Super Bowl are watched by, I can't remember the number now, and the rates are always very high, and so I'm trying to, balance that with what you said.
Well, Super Bowl is an absolute exception in the United States. It's an absolute exception in terms of reach, and it's an absolute exception in terms of quality of the commercials, quality of the films. The companies make extra films only for the Super Bowl, and they want people to talk about these films. Normal advertising doesn't behave like this. What I spoke about was normal advertising, and we don't have Super Bowl in Germany, so this was German examples. But as well in the US, John Philip Jones said, if advertising effectiveness is 25%, that this would be over-exaggerated. So the general result holds as well in the US. Okay.
The other thing was TV, as you're talking about, is a traditional TV.
Yes.
But TV also goes on social media in the sense that you have YouTube, you have, so how do you also balance that? Or you're just talking about traditional TV?
Well, the point is, traditional TV, you can build up reach. Because you send the commercial to people who don't want to see it. Then you can build up reach quite. So this is another medium compared to a YouTube film. A YouTube film, you go into the film and then you get it. So you search for it. So this is a different medium, even if it's the same commercial. But as you have seen, we also see what happens with YouTube advertising. I have shown you the chart. Okay? Yes?
Okay, as a prospective student of market and social research, I know the course has different categories. Okay, there's a qualitative aspect of it, the quantitative aspect of it, and statistics. For general knowledge, we're to learn everything, but for area of specialization, don't you think we should just choose an area, focus on it, and know it very well? Because I know you're very good at statistics, or we have to know everything. I just want to understand.
I think that's the way training generally works. That market research is some would say, a very specialized thing, a very specialized part of economics. So there is marketing as a specialized part, and a specialized part of marketing is market research. So some would say it's a very specialized thing. But on the other side, you are right. Market research is a broad thing.
Yes.
And but I think it's good for you to get first an overview of what is possible. You should not be like a craftsman who tries to solve all problems with a hammer, because he learned how to use a hammer, but he didn't learn how to use a saw. And now he tries to replace a saw by a hammer. So you should know there is a saw, and you should know what to do with a saw. Even later in practice, you are perhaps a hammer. Okay, do you understand my? Okay?
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to acknowledge what he has done for us.
Business of propagating education and showing that the new trend for education is research, not just reading, and that the trend in research is electronic research based on competencies that have to do with statistics, language, writing skills, but now more analytical skills. And that is why GFK University was very pleased to join GFK in propagating market research as a concept in Nigeria. As was noted earlier, up till then, it has not been very popular. But we thought that Nigeria would be left behind in developing its economy and its people if the concept of market research is not popularized very quickly in Nigeria, especially among the youth and the corporate world. And so the role of the university to promote knowledge and build the future. We want to thank you for joining us in unfolding the future. And I want to think that your being here is an affirmation that you know that the future begins today. Actually, it began yesterday. And if we don't latch onto it now, that future will catch us unaware. And when the world is moving forward, it will be static. So we want all of you to please embrace market research. I think that is taken for granted since you are here. We want all of us to preach market research such that the new world will have more and more Nigerians as active participants, as prosumers, not just consumers. With that, I say thank you all of you for being here. We look forward to seeing you more and more in this effort to create a new Nigeria, a new Africa, and a new world. Hence, for example, change from Pan African University to Pan Atlantic University. The Atlantic washes 5 continents. Thank you and welcome.
We are going to, I hope, give you CD of the new students that are into market research. So you can see their profile, and then you can also have direct talks with them, call them for a chat, and prepare for the internship and as well as employing them. Thank you very much for coming. We have cocktail downstairs.